Gold exploration in Africa is now ramping up for Askari Metals, with the company advancing its flagship Nejo Gold Project in Ethiopia towards drilling. Joining us today is Askari Metals Executive Director Gino D'Anna to discuss what's driving the key milestones ahead and what investors should be watching out for. Gino, thank you for joining us. To begin with, for investors who may be hearing the Askari story for the first time, can you give us a quick overview of the company and the simplest way to understand this investment opportunity today?
Yeah, sure. So thanks very much firstly for having me. So Askari Metals is a Southern African focused gold and copper exploration company. We've got, like you've said, the flagship Nejo Gold and Copper Project in Ethiopia, as well as the AS2 polymetallic project in Namibia. So the simplest way for an investor to look at Askari is look at us as a disciplined, aggressive exploration company, and we are focused on the assets in Southern Africa.
So Nejo in Ethiopia is your lead project and your long-term value driver. What makes it geologically compelling and why has it become the company's primary focus?
I think firstly, strategically where it's located along that Arabian-Nubian shield. And so that Arabian-Nubian shield is so well known for hosting some of the largest gold and copper commercial mines. But what we're seeing in Ethiopia is a very underestimated, underexplored locality. But we sit along strike of the Kurmuk mine, which is a 3.4 million ounce deposit. And we sit actually surrounding the 1.7 million ounce Tulu-Kapi mine. So that was the first draw card for the company. The extension to that, of course, is the history of the project. So what we've seen at Nejo is a lot of exploration that's been done in the past, not just trenching and field mapping and sampling, but also a lot of geophysics, as well as diamond drilling and RC drilling. So that definitely lends itself to being of a more advanced nature of an asset, and certainly gives Askari a foothold and more of a stepping stone, as so to speak, to actually migrate and further the resources there as well.
Investors are particularly focused on the anticipated approvals at Nejo. What needs to happen before the company can move into the next phase, and what would receiving those approvals unlock for Askari?
So critically for Askari, and I mean we've been in country now since really August of last year. The time that we've been spending in the country has really been forming those relationships, not just at the government levels, but also all the way down to local community leader levels and traditional landowner levels as well. So that's been a big sort of milestone and achievement for the company, actually having that ongoing administrative and definitely the exploration support in hand. So we're currently awaiting, and we expect to receive them imminently, the final approvals. What that'll mean for the company is just enabling us to be on the ground, unencumbered, and start that initial maiden drilling campaign, which is 5,000 metres to start with, but it's part of a much broader 20,000 metre campaign as well.
Askari has identified 10 priority drill targets and is planning an initial diamond drilling program of approximately 5,000 metres. How have those targets been selected, and what would a successful first drilling campaign look like there?
Yeah, so I mean, we spent a lot of time doing data aggregation and collating all of the data from the historical campaigns that have been completed there on Nejo. What that meant is that we identified two very significant geological structures, shear zones that follow in from the Tulu-Kapi mineralization, one of them being that Guji-Gudea trend and the other being the Galiso trend. And collectively, in an aggregate, they around 19 kilometers of cumulative strike. Those first three drilling targets, so Guji, Kumto 1 and Kumto 2, they're going to be where the company initially focuses that first 5,000 metres. And the reason for that is because they've actually seen the most amount of historical drilling. Lots of visible gold in those old diamond core holes as well, which is obviously tantalising from an exploration and from an investor's perspective. But we've also seen not a lot of drilling in between the prospects. So that's going to be necessarily where Askari can validate the historical drilling by twinning those holes, but then very quickly stepping out and putting a proper grid design around those areas and in between the prospects to really move that project to a resource definition stage.
While Nejo represents the longer-term growth opportunity, US provides a second project focus. What work is currently progressing there, and what are the main catalyst investors should be watching for in the long term?
Yeah, so we really like OIS, not just because, again, from a strategic perspective, we are right next door to the OIS tin mine, which has been owned and operated for at least 30, 40 years now in continuous production, where we've got the advantage, so to speak, of seeing what the neighbour's doing. They're not just producing a tin, but they're producing a lithium and a tantalum concentrate as well. So we're actually getting a lot of geological and beneficiation understanding from what the neighbours are doing. So what work's currently ongoing there is we're doing a soil geochem program on our northern licence, which we call 7626. Once the team's finished there, they'll then mobilise back to 7345, which is that central licence. and we'll do a program of second phase trenching as well as first phase RC follow-up drilling as well on those targets we've identified. That's OP, DP, PS and K9. And then on the southern license, we'll be doing a first phase trenching campaign where we've identified some significant pegmatites, some up to 3.2 kilometers in strike. So definitely they have the scale ability there. And again, it just reinforces that polymetallic nature of those pegmatites. So again, it's tin, it's lithium, it's cesium, it's tantalum, and it's rubidium. So all those critical minerals which the market is looking at securing long-term supply of feedstock as well.
Looking across both projects, how are you balancing management, attention and exploration priorities? And what are the most important milestones investors should watch over the next 6 to 12 months?
So firstly, given that it's Southern Africa, it's actually a lot easier to manage two projects. If you were to say, I've got a project in Canada and another one in Australia, for example, it entertains slightly more difficult logistics. We've got a very strong exploration team, both in Namibia and in Ethiopia. So that certainly helps in terms of managing the projects and managing and progressing them to defined outcomes. From my perspective, I mean, I've been doing this for quite a number of years, and 15 plus years, in fact. And so I've got a lot of experience in dealing and working across Africa in different countries, different jurisdictions. So for me, managing two projects, I would be bored if I was doing anything less. From a shareholder's perspective, what sort of catalyst we've got to look forward to? Certainly the drilling at Nejo is going to be the one sort of, I would say, transformative news catalyst for an investor coming in, because that really is going to start to really unlock the value of that project. And it's not just around validating those historical holes. As I said, it's actually around starting from a position of known information and then stepping out along strike and stepping out sort of laterally to really push that project through into the resource. Nejo will obviously get a lot of attention from an investor perspective, and there's a lot of attention from management's time as well, but OIS will continue to operate with high impact, low cost exploration campaigns. As I said, the drilling's not very expensive, and also trenching. We do a lot of the stuff in-house now as well. So we've got a small laboratory set up in OIS. That definitely helps to reduce costs and also speed up access to information.
Fantastic. Gino, thank you for joining us. Certainly some exciting times ahead.
Thank you so much.